Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh and welcome back. Just before the short interval, I spoke at length regarding the concept of barakah. Why was I speaking about that? Because the question that we had is about the suhoor meal as to whether we should partake in it or not. You've joined me on Q&A, questions and answers. So if you do have any questions, then the number you need to ring is 01274 214 299. I repeat, 01274 214 299. I'll continue with the questions that we have on issues surrounding around Ramadan and what one should or shouldn't do. So when we make suhoor, let's just say you've missed suhoor, then what? Okay, you didn't get up for whatever reason. It's now, so let's just say suhoor is at 4:30. You've got up at 6. Looked at the watch, oh no, you've missed your suhoor, sahri, call it what you like. What should you do? Are you supposed to fast that day, or do you say, well, I missed suhoor, so I don't have to fast? No, you are still required to fast, okay, because suhoor, as we said, is sunnah. It is not fard, it is not a requirement for the fast. One must still fast. Yes, one may get a little bit hungry, especially the kind of suhoor that we have. When I say we, I'm speaking in the collective we, not necessarily personally me. I struggle to eat that much at that particular time. I've been on cereal now for, goodness me, nearly gave my age away then, about 30, 35 years I've been on cereal, maybe longer. Can't really take anything heavier than that, and anything that's got spice in it, goodness me, that will really knock me out. So, but others I hear, and I am absolutely amazed at, 2 paratha, 15 eggs, half a chicken, whatever, and that's just as a starter. So I don't know how they do it. May Allah bless them and make them strong with that food that they eat. So it's recommended, but it's not a condition for fasting. So if you miss the suhoor, you must carry on with the fast. Also, when it comes to acts of worship, whether they be salah, whether they be zakah, whatever they may be, Siyam is no different. So when one is attempting to make a fast, then they should make niyyah. Okay, and the niyyah should be made when the night starts, preferably as close to suhoor as possible. But if a person thinks that I may fall asleep, then he should make niyyah that I intend to fast tomorrow. Okay, when he makes that intention, then obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward it. You hear some people say, oh, I've not eaten all day, so I'm going to count that as a fast. Let's just say outside of Ramadan, a person chooses not to eat all day, so they get up, they don't forget to have breakfast for whatever reason, get through to lunch, still haven't had anything, don't have anything at tea time, and then it gets too close to Maghrib and they think, oh, you know what, I'm just going to count that as a fast because, I've not eaten all day. It requires a niyyah. In some cases, as long as one makes niyyah before zawal, it will suffice. But when we're speaking about fard fasts that haven't been fixed in that way, then one should make niyyah in the night before. Okay, one doesn't remember niyyah is of the heart. Doesn't have to be verbalized. It doesn't have to be articulated with the mouth. So as long as the niyyah is in the heart, and we all know that, don't we? We're all automatic, We have those charts, don't we, for Ramadan, and we're counting the days down like, oh, just another 29 days of Ramadan to go. It's really sad, unfortunately, if you're in that kind of position because you're basically longing for Ramadan to finish. And it's an opportunity in Ramadan. Yes, it's difficult. Of course it's difficult. But anything that has a bit of pain, then there's always going to be some gain. So, think of it like that. And think that how can I maximize my Ramadan? What about on the other end? Should one delay in opening the fast? Should they say, well, I want to pray my Maghrib. Once I pray my Maghrib, I want to pray a few nawafil. Once I prayed a few nawafil, I want to do some dhikr, askar, and then I'll break my fast, like 25 minutes, half an hour after iftar time. No. One should, as soon as the adhan is called at the correct time, they should break their fast. Okay. In fact, we find in our masajids that the imam would delay the Maghrib prayer until people have broken their fast. I appreciate now it is somewhat of a tradition. Well, it used to be a few years ago. Now, obviously, we've had the COVID virus. But a couple of years back, the men would gather in the masjid and people would bring food and they would break their fast together. That's all fine. However, it does tend to be quite a lot of food people eat, and there's an excessive delaying of Maghrib when really, Maghrib Salah is also something that needs to be done. We only need to eat is a day or two, that's it, and, glass sip of water, and really then we should be praying Maghrib Salah. So that's how we should be. But like I said, it's becoming a bit of a cultural practice. The dastakhans will get rolled out, and obviously everybody will sit there, and then, you know, they will eat to break fast. There's no harm in it if it was done. But like I said, what you don't want to do is make it something which gets longer and longer and longer. Really, you know, fast should be broken, and one should be then ready to pray again. I think in a way people do that so that kind of has that social element. So we're all in it together, so to speak. In that case, it's not a problem. But as I said, it's just something we need to be concerned about if Maghrib Salah is getting delayed too much. How should we open our fast? Well, as much as we'd like to munch, you know, half a pound of pakoras or 6 samosas or 3 kebabs or anything like that, the sunnah is to obviously break one's fast with a date or with water. Again, you might say, you know, why do we have to do that? Well, you know, at the end of the day, you want to maximize Ramadan, so you want to get as many rewards as possible. It's a sunnah, so why not get that chance? You can eat the date and then have a kebab afterwards if you really, really must. You can take a sip of water and then drink a can of cola or something if you really, really must. But at least, you know, do the sunnah to your best of your ability. And, you know, there's expectation for reward. We also know that not only do we not eat and drink in Ramadan, but also we cannot partake in sexual intercourse. So those individuals who are married, because that's the only permissible way that the Sharia permits any sexual gratification of a person, then they should also refrain from those acts, because they will nullify a person's fast. So they must refrain from that. Also, things which lead to that they should avoid as well. So if they're a young couple or the chap or the chapess are, how do I word this, an excitable person, let's use that phrase, then anything which leads to intercourse should be avoided, because if they cannot manage themselves or they get too hot under the collar, what's that? Too hot under the collar. That's the word I was supposed to say. You see, I'm losing my words now. But if a person gets too hot under the collar and as a result won't necessarily be able to stop themselves, then they should avoid all types of interactions. If the chappie is an old chap and the lady is an old lady and they've kind of, you know, moved on from that, and if he was to kiss his wife, then the fast would not break. But obviously he cannot engage in such a way that he would end up having her saliva or anything of that nature in his mouth. So that's something he should avoid. That doesn't mean, obviously, that one can't partake in those activities after they've broken their fast. So like a person can eat, like a person can drink, a person can also engage in that. Sometimes what people do is think that, oh, for the whole month now, you cannot engage in these activities. That's not correct. There is a position, mind you, that in the last 10 days, one should try to really get in the zone and avoid all distractions. What tends to happen, as we see, again, we should hope to see that in the masajids as well. I remember when I was consulted about this a couple of years back when the COVID thing came on the scene, I was aware that the many masajids did not have people performing i'tikaf in them. That's wrong. Even with the COVID in place, there should be i'tikaf taking place. It's in a masjid and that should occur. And there's easy ways of avoiding, taking the necessary COVID restrictions in order. But the last 10 days, we make that extra effort. So as men folk, if we can, if work permits, if lifestyle permits, if family permits, depending on their scenario, 10 days in the masjid, one should perform i'tikaf. In that way, you've actually secluded yourself in the masjid, which has nothing in it really apart from bare walls, solely for the worship of Allah. Similarly, sisters who can do that, obviously, again, if they've got a young family, it might be difficult or other circumstances, they will pick their chamber, their room, and an area in their room that they normally pray in, and that will become their place of i'tikaf. And they will stay there also for 10, 9 days, whatever it will be. Now, if a person can't do that, then they should try to do, especially the men folk, should try to do the nafal i'tikaf as much as possible. So as they enter, and this should be a habit anyway, nawaitu i'tikaf ma dumtu fil masjid, that every time you walk into the masjid, make that niyyah, even if you stay for 5 minutes just to pray the fard and leave, you will get reward for i'tikaf as well as the fard prayer. So men folk should try to stay in the masjids. I appreciate with COVID, it might be difficult, but moving forward, inshallah, that's something that we can then partake in. But also is to kind of avoid any worldly things, even when one isn't fasting. That doesn't mean that as soon as your fast breaks, you can now commit haram or something, and in the daytime you were avoiding the halal, and now you can't even avoid the haram. It means that the month is night and day. It's just that the restrictions aren't there for eating, drinking, and sexual intercourse at night. But that doesn't mean that one should start sinning in the month of Ramadan. One should avoid that. And even then, the last 10 days, one should avoid this type of behavior. Why? Because the focus should be now on salah. And we have narrations of hadith which explain that very thing. Now, we're going to hopefully get to kafara. It might not be today, obviously. I'm conscious that we're now coming to the end of today's program. But we will, inshallah, hopefully return next week. It may be that we don't have the structure in the manner that we have now, where I can kind of lecture on a particular topic. But it will still be open to Q&A, even though we may be addressing the kind of the needs for the homeless, the orphans, the poor across the planet. So we may not obviously go through these masail as that. I will speak to the people in power and see if we can kind of get that organized, inshallah, because I do think it's essential that we have these questions and answers going on. So there are two types of things that require, one fast which breaks will require qadha only, and one fast which is broken will require qadha and kafara. Now is knowing when and how. Obviously, I cannot go through that now because of the time that we have, but I will explain that when you're making a qadha fast, you will only make the fast that you made qadha. So 1 for 1, 2 for 2, 3 for 3. However many you made qadha, that's how many you will do qadha. When it comes to kafara, because you have committed a sin, then there's an expiation required. And that expiation is to fast for 60 consecutive days. Okay, that's the kafara and the qadha as well. So qadha will only be when you had a legal excuse to not fast or a legal excuse to break your fast. In that, you will just make one qadha for the fast that you made qadha of. Kafara comes in, kafara meaning expiation, comes in, penance, call it what you like, comes in when you have committed a sin by breaking your fast. Now you will make qadha like you would normally for breaking the fast, but now you also have to acknowledge your error, your sin, and you will make 60 perpetual fasts. Even if you get to 57 and break it, then you will have to start all over again. It's not that you've done 56 and you've still got 4 left. No, you will start all over again. But I think that's getting into a more technical topic. We're going to leave it there for today, inshallah ta'ala. And my colleague, Maulana Fazal Dad Sahab, will be here on Monday to carry on with Q&A. And I will also see you sometime next week, inshallah, to carry on with Q&A. Be prepared for Ramadan. Make the most of Ramadan. And, try to make a difference in your life. Use these next couple of months to make that change and become a better person. May Allah accept it from all of us, and may He make us sincere. Ameen. So till next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.